So you strike me as like a healthy, well-adjusted, creative dad, like relationships. I feel like being a child actor breaks, X percentage of folks. Let's call it 60% or whatever the number is. Like, and I'm sure you grew up with people that went through a version of this. I became a public figure relatively recently, but I was already like a dad and like fairly, mature. So I actually now have a better understanding as to how it messes people up. And I think you became famous in the time before social media, so good on you. You didn't have that particular. But would love to hear about your transitions that way, like going back to school. How did you find Columbia? Because I went to law school there, so I know the environment somewhat. And my wife went there undergrad. So it's like so I get some of what that school's about. But I'm curious about the transition both into college and then out of college and coming back to Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of quitting for me and wanting to go to school was getting away from the kind of attention that you get with quote unquote fame. Fame's something I've thought about a lot because I've been on TV and in movies and stuff ever since I was young, and there's undeniably something very seductive and attractive about it. I think it's pretty deep seated in our biology, and it makes sense if you're out in the wild and you're living in a tribe of animals and everyone in your tribe knows who you are and has some kind of emotional attachment to you, you're probably more likely to survive. So that's attractive. You want that. So I think we have just a basic animal attraction to that kind of attention and fame. But
to verify what you just said, I remember I was reading something where it said that if you have primates in captivity, they'll actually pay food to see pictures of higher status primates.
wow. I have not heard that. That's incredible. I want to see that study. Jeez.
Because there was a time when you look up and you're like, oh, celebrity culture, like, not very natural. But then when you see that study, you're like, holy shit, apparently celebrity culture is like the most natural thing in the world.
Of course, it's very, very natural. But let's be honest, chimpanzees rape and murder each other all day long in the wild. There's a lot of things that are natural that we.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it is hardwired into us.
It is. It's hardwired into us, and like there's a lot of those things that are hardwired into us. That part of what like being a human is about is figuring out like how much am I going to be swayed by this primal monkey instinct to act on these urges. And there is an urge to want to be famous, and I've felt it. I'm drawn to it. It's something I probably struggle with, to be honest, like on a daily basis. How much does this matter to me? How much should it sway my decisions? And how much can I be happy without it? It sounds funny to say it's hard because it's a real privilege to have it, but
it'll mess people up quick.
It really does mess people up, and I'm not above saying like it's probably messed me up to some degree. I do my best to have it not mess me up too much. I've seen it mess other people up way worse, for a lot of reasons, and it's part of what is actually makes me really concerned about the way that online culture is moving right now, which is just, and look, there's something really wonderful about kind of democratizing fame. I think that in a way that's great. Fame, like something like that, shouldn't be limited to just Hollywood and or other like, super affluent metropolises throughout, the world. It should be like that. I should be more accessible to everybody, and the internet allows for that accessibility. But what it also does is it brings those kinds of struggles and that kind of addiction into kind of everyone's life, and especially with younger people. I really, because I was going through this when I was in junior high, not because of social media, but because I was in Angels in the Outfield. I dealt with like the kind of self-doubt and questions of like, do people really like me for me, or do they like me because I was in this movie, and how can I know if I'm really worth anything, or if it's all about these appearances, and like is there any me there at
I,
all?
and if
like,
I stop doing these appearances, like
Mhm.
will everyone like forget about me, turn on me, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. And so and that made junior high like it made it angst ridden for me. And of course, junior high is angst ridden for everybody for lots of reasons. But I don't know. I when I see especially younger people experiencing some of the same kind of addiction to fame and attention that I think like people in Hollywood have experienced for generations now, it worries me. It makes me feel like,
We should be worried.
yeah,
Like you have teenage kids like having like their entire high school class like following them into their bedroom like on their smartphone or whatever. I mean like like that's a very intense experience that
yeah.
that
And
previous
you start
generations
to
had not
think of
had.
yourself differently. If you are a performance and there's no boundary there, then like the most important thing in life, I think, especially as a younger person, but it's something I still very much believe in as a, dad now, you have to have your own relationship with yourself. You have to have that space where you are you and you know who you are. And you are who you are because of your own preferences and your own feelings and your own beliefs. And if that goes away because you're constantly offered opportunities to present a performance version of yourself and get the dopamine hits that you get when people, hit the heart button and like you or retweet you or whatever, it's easy to lose track of that core relationship that you have with yourself. You got to spend time alone. You have to spend time just going deep down into yourself and ignoring what anybody says, because ultimately, yeah, as Kurt Cobain says, all we are is all alone, or all alone is all we are. Ultimately, you are the only one, and everybody else, no matter how close you get, and like I feel deeply, deeply close with like my family, but there is, no matter what, there's a difference between that relationship you have inside your own head, and it's precious, and it's a part of what makes us human, and it's losable. It's so losable if you never spend any time on it, if you spend all your time for others, presenting yourself to others.
Wow,
And
man, that's really profound and deep and correct. I've just gotten like a glimpse of it myself. I fear for what we're doing to a lot of these kids' brains and sense of self, because I certainly never felt that visible and on display when I was a kid. It's like I was a shy bookworm, and go home, close the door, and read my fantasy novel or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't like much.
That's important. I did that too. You asked like, how come I'm like not addicted to drugs or in jail or something. Like, unfortunately, a certain number of kids who experience fame are. I think a lot of it is because I was encouraged and did have time to just like be by myself and read that fantasy novel and like just have that time with myself, and not just be always obsessed with what do other people think of me? How can I present myself to more and more people? And what should that presentation be? And it gets convoluted so much with art too. That's the other thing I think
That's
about
the
a
thing
lot.
about art, man. And like I've experienced something like this even. So I'm trying to get universal basic income across the finish line, and one of the things that happened on the campaign trail, and you can relate to this, is that like people need a person to like pin it on. So it's like, if I want this thing to happen, then it's going to have to be me like making the case, talking to people, saying, hey, we should really do this. And there's like this continued projection outward, that you have to do. And not to say I'm not like an artist or creative in the same way, but like there are some parallels, because like you have to continuously like project this energy out, and the struggle you're describing and creativity go hand in hand, because like sometimes you like, there are creatives who are like, look, I just like my work to speak for itself, but unfortunately like just no one operates that way.
Not as much these days. Yeah.
Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, please do subscribe to Yang Speaks and click on notifications so we can let you know every time we have a new episode.